Marcos, can you hear us from the Senate? Oh, senators, baka nag-i-interpolate pa. Well, let's proceed. Thank you for joining us. I know you're very busy attending to the deliberations in both the Senate and the House, but Congressman, I'm going to ask you first, can you bring us up to speed on the status of the BBL at the House of Representatives?
Right now, there is already the vice chairs are defending the bill.
As you speak.
Yes, as I speak now, and we already had more than 10 who have finished interpellations. There's 16 more because 26 are in the list. We have been ready since August 3 for the interpellation to answer any and all questions. However, there have been questions of quorum. And so that's what we have now. We will still have about 15 interpellators.
Okay, later on we'll talk about the problem with the quorum and which is something that is plaguing deliberations not only on the BBL but other equally important measures. But 15 other interpellators in the pipeline. How long do you think will that take?
Well, if we have quorum from the start up to 4 hours after, we can finish 3 to 4. And so we can finish the 15 in about 4 days, really, 4 session days. But unfortunately, we have a quorum at the start, but then after 1.5 hours, 2 hours, really there's no more quorum, and those against the bill would stand up and ask for a quorum call. And so then we suspend session.
Professor, how do you feel about the progress or the pace of the deliberations in the House of Representatives? Later on, we'll ask also Senator Bongbong Marcos in the progress of the Senate, but right now, kayo muna, reaction.
Well, obviously, it could be much better than the pace that we're seeing. We see the problem of quorum in the House. In the case of the Senate, last week, I believe, for instance, last Wednesday, Senator Marcos was absent. And today, I understand one of the senators scheduled for interpellation also called in sick. So these are very unfortunate. And if, of course, we believe that if the intent is there, that then it can be done.
Professor?
I think the members of Congress and the Senate should be more responsive to the call for the immediate passage of the BBL. I think by September 10, it will be 1 year already.
That's right. 1 year since submission
Yes,
of the BBL.
Yeah, the Office of the President submitted to Congress. So that's 1 year was a long time for such deliberation. So I hope we appeal to the members of Congress, both houses, to be more responsive to this immediate needs.
Okay, let's go to the Senate, to Senator Bongbong Marcos. Senator, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I can very well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Senator. I know you're also having your session there at the Senate, but if you could, can you give us an update on the status of the BBL deliberations in the Senate right now?
Well, similar to the House of Representatives, we are in the period of interpellation in the Senate today, and that's precisely why I cannot join you in your studios because I'm still here in the Senate, and we finished the interpellation for today. So we are proceeding. I think most of the senators will at some point interpellate, if not all the senators will interpellate. And so far, the first interpellator has been Senator Pia Cayetano, and she has had 2 sessions. Senator Ralph Recto has been able to ask some questions. Senator Bam Aquino has also done some interpellation, but none of them, I believe, are finished yet. And although they had finished for that time, I think they intend to bring up some other questions. And then there are, of course, the other senators. So it's proceeding apace, and I think it is going as quickly as we can possibly make it go at this point. Again, it depends on the other senators, on how many questions they ask and how much time they take.
At the rate that the senators are proceeding with the interpellation, of course, we understand that each senator has a different time frame or timetable for interpellation, and of course, also that you have not been imposing any time limits on them. How long do you think will it take for the Senate to, or for the Senate to finish the period of interpellation and proceed to the amendments?
Well, at the rate we are going, we're still essentially, technically speaking, we're still with the first interpellator. Although I beg no, Senator Bamakino I think has finished with his interpolation. So we are talking about we are the second interpolator, and so with so far 16 registered to interpolate, and it has taken us 2 weeks so far. So or maybe if the flow improves, then maybe we can finish it in 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks in terms of the interpolation, and go on and move on to the period of amendments. So, but I have to qualify immediately here that that's a very rough estimate, and it's next to impossible to give any guarantees when it comes to the time that it will take, because it is absolutely the right of every senator to ask questions, and one cannot limit the time that they take or the number of questions that they ask.
Of course. And after the interpellation, there will be a period of amendments, and then you proceed to the voting. Let me just move back to Professor Ferrer. What do you think of the timelines that the Senator Bongbong Marcos, of course, a rough timeline, but 5 weeks probably maximum to finish the interpellation period?
Well, the Senate does. It's in their power to schedule the process, and therefore it's also in their power to fast track the process. I mean, we can imagine a situation where extra session days could be scheduled, or maybe prolong the actual period of interpellation. You can have 3, 4 senators interpellating in one day. I guess what I'm trying to say is really reiterating the appeal that we all know that there are some difficulties if we go past October, precisely because this is we're getting into election year, and then there's the budget to pass. So we all know that, and if everybody is conscious of that, then certainly we can take the necessary steps.
Professor Lynda, would you like to add to that?
No, I think we still have to reiterate our appeal for the members of Congress, both houses, the lower house and the upper house, to find means to fast track the passage of the bill.
Congressman Rufus, is there urgency on the part of the lawmakers to wrap up deliberations on the BBL? Because obviously the government and the MILF representatives are saying that it could be better, it could be faster.
Yes, there is really that urgency. In fact, time is running out. Our calendar of the Committee on Rules that on September 28 will be the start already of plenary sessions of the 2016 budget of
That's
this
right.
country.
The budget.
And so when there is a budget deliberation on the floor, on the plenary, there's no other debate that can be done because it will be on all of the budget. Now, if we do not finish by on or before September 28, I really doubt whether we can pass this bill, because on October 10 we will have a break, and then on October 12 to 16 is the filing of certificates of candidacy, and
That's right.
that starts the campaign season. The period starts in January, and the campaigning starts in March, in May, in February, but it's already election fever because October 12 and 16 they'll be filing. Once they would file, most of the congressmen will be running for re-election or for governor or for senator or for mayor. So certainly that will be a lot of absences already in the House because they will be concentrating on campaigning and putting up their slate. So the period that we are looking at is on or before September 28. After that, I believe we'll have a difficult time in passing this bill.
Okay, same question to Senator Marcos. In terms of urgency, how soon do you want to see Senate action on the matter? In the Senate, of course, half of the Senate will be either seeking re-election, maybe running for higher office, and also just plainly ending their term, no, for those who are graduating. So, Senator, how soon do you think, or is there any urgency at all?
I think yes, there's certainly urgency because the SP, the Senate President, has already said that this bill be given priority when it comes to scheduling session days and scheduling the subjects and the different bills that are to be studied and argued in plenary. So, but I think I have to agree with Congressman Rufus's analysis of the timeline. We are coming up against the budget hearings, which at which point we will have to stop hearing or deliberating any other bills and finish the budget. By which time we will have come to the period that where we of filing, and once the COCs have been filed, then I believe election, as he mentioned, election fever will prevail, and many people are candidates. I for one, am a candidate in the next election. So the congressmen, it is exactly the same situation. All, if and most, if not all, congressmen are going to be candidates. So we are really coming up to the very to the point where it is becoming very tight. And this is not surprising because there was a 6-month delay in the submission of the Bangsamoro Basic Law to Congress. It was meant to be in April of 2014. We actually got it on September of 2014. And then there was the Mama Sapano massacre, which happened in January 25. And that took another 6 weeks of investigation, 6 to 8 weeks of investigation to finally move on and go back to the deliberation, the hearings in the Senate. So all of this has conspired to push us very close to the budget hearings and also to the filing of candidacies in October.
Okay.
So there is a very tight schedule ahead of us if we are to approve it.
Okay.
In this Congress.
Thank you, Senator. Professor?
Yes, I guess, Lynda, what we're saying is it's not impossible, and there are ways that can be done to make it possible. I think we are all agreed on the circumstances regarding the elections, the budget bill. Then the question really is, what can we do to make it happen that the period of amendment actually happens, the third reading in both houses actually happen before September. Then you go now to the bicameral conference, which can still move during the month of October. So I think that's the issue now. It's not all of these difficulties. The real issue now is what we can do to make it happen that third reading happens within the month of September.
Whose responsibilities is it as far as the government panel and the MILF panel are concerned? Whose responsibility is it to crack the whip on the senators and the congressmen? Parang ano lang, to make the move faster, if that were possible at all.
I think it's the responsibility of all elected legislators to really do their job of making things happen. So we're actually helpless here.
That's true. Leadership ba ito? Is this going to be the House? It has to be the House and the Senate leadership.
Speaker Belmonte had already issued an appeal last week, and that's why we have quorum as of last week and this week. He has appealed that everyone should be present and that those who are against the bill should come out and be able to ask questions, and then let us go to a vote. For those who are against, then vote no. And then for those in favor, vote yes. In other words,
That's right.
what he's saying is that let us lend ourselves, the congressmen, to be present to have a quorum. So that in the quorum, we can be able to have the interpellations, after the interpellations, because 16, if we have 5 days and we have that, we can finish all of them. And then the period of amendments can follow. And then after that, we can have a second and third reading, and we can bring it to the Senate, and we can have the BICAM committee. So that can all be done actually before September 28th. So it is really our congressmen and senators being united in deciding on this, whether in favor or not, because I believe that this is a legacy that this Congress can leave. When we go to file our certificates of candidacy October 12, dapat tapos na ito.
That's right. Okay, it's one thing. Let's leave the matter of timelines and urgency for the meantime, because it's one thing to pass the BBL. It's another thing to see the kind of BBL or the content of the BBL that will be passed both in the Senate and the House. So just very quickly, Professor Lynda, reactions to the changes. I'm sure you have been apprised of the proposed changes in the Senate and the House versions.
The BBL is one of the processes have to be undertaken by both parties, by the government and the MILF to implement the agreement. But in the case of the BBL, it is solely a responsibility of government because it's a legislative action. So, since the BBL is an implementation of the agreement, it should conform with the terms of the agreement. The BBL is not an ordinary legislation. That's my understanding. It is a legislation to implement an agreement. So, it should conform with the terms of the agreement. So that's how we see it.
So you feel that at the rate it is being deliberated on and modified in the House and the Senate, the bill will no longer conform to the terms of the
Now,
agreement.
I would suggest that the members of Congress should see the versions of the BBL versus the agreement. So, and then try to, and then they should see to it that those who are in the agreement should be there in the BBL. But of course, in the proposed BBL, not all are in the agreement. Those who are not in the agreement, these are matters that can be discussed or can be talked about. But those who are clearly in the agreement, then we expect that these provisions will be in the BBL.
Professor Ferrer, are you probably realistic enough to accept that it might not be the same BBL that the president submitted to Congress? No, there will be changes.
Definitely.
Oh.
We welcome the enhancements, the clarity in language that were introduced in some of the provisions, both in the amended House bill as well as in the Senate bill. If there were some provisions that sounded like they were not constitutional before, if some cleaning up was done and it became, some stresses were made, then that's something that we welcome. But at the end of the day, we want a law that is certainly better than what we have now in the ARM. Second, one that meets the aspirations of the people for whom the law is primarily intended. I think that's very clear. If you pass a law on women, it's primarily intended for women. If you pass a law for workers, it's primarily intended for laborers. Therefore, it's a Bangsamoro basic law that should be able to serve the aspirations and the practices for autonomous governance of the people in the Bangsamoro.
Before we go into a break, are there must retain provisions that you feel should be there but have already been removed or in the process of being removed in the House and Senate versions?
A good number has been taken away from the amended Senate bill, and we of course want to understand the rationale for that. I guess that's the reason for the interpellation, for the sponsor to be able to explain why. But certainly a good number of bodies that were proposed have been taken out. The composition, the allocation of seats in the parliament have been significantly altered to revert to a formula that is different from what it was intended to support. So these are just some of the examples, and we hope that there's time to be able to re-examine those parts.
Okay, we'll have to pause for a break. Also, Senator Marcos, hopefully we can get to you back in the Senate later on. But for now, we'll have to pause for a break. We'll have more of this discussion on peace, justice, and the Bangsamoro Basic Law when we return. You can join our discussion online using the hashtag BeyondBBL. Stay with us.